That's our cue. Good evening, greetings, and welcome everyone to this edition of Don Hammond's Arlington Weekly News. I'm Craig Nolan. Thanks for joining us.
I'm Richard Corris.
And my name's Adele Quo.
And here we go with another show, our post-Memorial Day show, and coming up on our first show in June. Well, not quite. We got about another week to go, but this is it. So thanks for joining us, and we'll do our best to put out a good show for you here tonight on this, our last show in May of 2019. We have news. We do have some news, community bulletin board, and as you may have noticed, Adele is back from assignment for another installment of
It's Easy Being Green.
Thanks, Adele. Thanks for coming back. Good to have you here, and we look forward to your report. CBB, as I mentioned, Roland Denise, our theater reviewer, talking about Richard III tonight, our News for Seniors segment, and then our Styrofoam Mom, Miriam Gennari, and another installment of her Sustainable Scoop. That's our show, but before we begin, social media from my co-anchor over here, Mr. Richard.
Remember, it's on YouTube, Arlington Weekly News 1.
And also on the radio, WERA 96.7 LPFM. Check us out. We're in your ear on WERA. All right, here we go. First of our news items. Well, last Thursday's severe weather caused widespread power outages across Arlington. The outages affected many traffic signals on the roads. As a public service, we are now sharing information from driversed.com about the proper way to act and behave and deal with non-functioning traffic lights when you're at the intersection. And we're quoting now, if all traffic signals are not working because of an electrical power failure, then you must stop at the intersection and then proceed when you know that other turning and approaching vehicles, bicycles, or pedestrians have stopped. A non-working or blacked out traffic signal works the same way as a four-way stop intersection, close quote. This message, take two, we would also like to add to this message, don't pretend that you didn't notice the broken traffic light. If someone goes out of turn, don't try to compensate by going early yourself. And finally, don't assume that the other drivers will obey the law and do the right thing unless you're ready to pay for a new paint job and some body work. There's our thoughts of wisdom there for you. Richard.
The following is a press release from our friends at Opera Nova. Opera Nova will hold a summer institute for high school students starting this coming July 22nd, 2019 at the Women's Club of Arlington, Virginia. The institute will introduce high school students to what it is like to have a career singing opera. Instructors who are Opera Nova singers will instruct attendees on technique as well as acting and presentation skills. The Institute will last 10 days and end with a concert at the Women's Club. Your support is critical. If you want to see opera and opera quality singing continue, this is an ideal cause to support. To make a donation, go to domore24.org/Summer Institute 1. For information on Opera Nova, go to operanova.org. And now it's time for
It's Easy Being Green. Here's Adele.
All right, thanks for that warm welcome. My name's Adele Quo, here with our mascot, Joe Tree Frog. Ooh, did I mess that up? Joe Tree Frog.
Joe Frog. Whatever, something like
that summer cold really messes you up.
What's this he's been drinking?
We are very lucky to have easy and cheap access to abundant, clean water that we take this resource for granted. Sadly, not a lot of people pay much attention to our storm drain systems. It's that out of sight, out of mind mentality. So do your part to prevent stormwater pollution with only rain down our storm drains. Arlington Stormwater Wise Landscapes Outreach Specialist Eileen Winquist reminds us to be on the lookout for stream pollution. Nothing should be put in, poured, or dumped into a storm drain. The storm drains you see on the street do not provide any sort of water filtration. They just empty into our local streams and eventually to the Potomac River, which provides our drinking water. Arlington's water source is the Potomac River, treated at the Dalcarlia Water Treatment Plant, while 1% of Arlington residents receives its water from the Williston Water Distribution System. Recently, it's been very wet, and the groundwater levels are high from all the spring rains. If you notice an oily sheen along the edges of a stream or along the sidewalk if the groundwater or water from a sump pump discharges to the area, how can you tell if it's oil or a naturally occurring bacteria in our region? This naturally occurring bacteria that exists in our region can look like oil on the surface of the water. This bacteria reacts with iron in the groundwater, sometimes creating fluffy orange deposits. A rainbow sheen can result from iron oxidizing bacteria or from petroleum. To differentiate, take a stick and trail it through the film. If it breaks up readily, it's probably bacteria. If it swirls together, it's most likely petroleum. And if you believe it is petroleum, or could be a petroleum spill, please call the Emergency Communications Center at 703-558-2222. You can learn more about types of stream pollution and how to identify and report them if you go to environment.arlingtonva.us/streams/report-stream-pollution. That should show up on the screen there. Also, report construction site runoff, mud, silt, and sediment that are coming from an active construction site should also be reported to 703-228-3693. This number is not monitored on a 24-hour basis, so leave a message. A follow-up investigation will take place the next business day. And remember, it's easy being green.
Check that water runoff. And the only thing supposed to be going down those storm drains is just water. But
Just
I see
water.
all kinds of stuff piled in front of those
Isn't that terrible?
storm drains
Yeah,
that
that's not
say,
good.
you know, it goes eventually ends up in the Chesapeake Bay, the Potomac and the
Exactly.
Chesapeake. So
A
be
lot
careful
of
what you put
pollutants.
down that storm drain. All right, we appreciate it. Thank you, Adele.
Good
for
to be
your
back.
EBG segment. Here we go now. As promised, our CBB, Community Bulletin Board file. Well, those of you with an entrepreneurial spirit may know the importance of developing a strong brand, but do you know how to do that? Well, if not, have no fear. Discover Arlington's Speaker Series is presenting an event where those in the know discuss techniques for developing your brand and then sharing their own personal success stories. If you need to sell something, whether it is a service, a product, or yourself as an employee, then this event is for you. That's coming up on Wednesday, June 5 from 6:30 to 8:30 in the p.m. in the concourse level at Tiki Lounge at Ballston. Take two, Ballston Quarter. They're located at 4238 Wilson Boulevard. Tickets are $10 and can be purchased online at www.ballstonquarter.com. Richard.
A brush with the future. Journey to the final frontier where nobody can hear you scream with this event. Celebrate the life and works of Chesley Bonestell, who has been called the world's most influential space artist, with a free screening of the film A Brush with the Future. Afterwards, join producer and director Douglas M. Stewart Jr. and co-producer Ron Miller for a special question and answer session about the film. This is taking place on Saturday, June 8th at 7 p.m. in the Galaxy Ballroom at the Sheraton Pentagon City Hotel. 900 South Army Street. Admission is on a first-come, first-served basis. Craig.
All right, Richard, also on our CBB file, we can join a national park ranger for a hike around Arlington and see some of the amazing views and history that this area has to offer. This is taking place on Saturday, June 8th from 10 in the morning, starting at the United States Marine Corps Memorial, otherwise known as Iwo Jima. This event is free and no registration is required, and it will last for about 2.5 hours. So stop down at Iwo Jima and tour around Arlington with a park ranger. Richard.
Video games are fun, but have you ever had an idea for one of your own? Learn how to make that idea into a reality at this event for middle schools and older. Best of all, no programming skills are needed. That's taking place on Monday, June 10th from 7 to 8:30 p.m. in the Cyber Center at the Columbia Pike Branch Library, 815 South Walter Reed Drive. Register online at the library website. And thanks to Jordan Kucharski for this week's CBB Stories.
All right, thanks, Jordan. We appreciate your efforts, and we'll be back with news for seniors coming up right after we hear from Denise and her thoughts on Richard III. Here's Denise.
Richard III is Cinetic Theatre's 14th wordless Shakespeare production. It's one of his most popular plays, and quickly brings to mind images of the hunchback Richard limping and slashing his way to the throne. In this cyberpunk version of the story, the hunchback is gone. After being wounded in battle, Richard is mechanically reconstructed. All traces of his humanity have also been sacrificed, making it easier for him to commit the many murders necessary to clear the path to the crown and its ultimate power. Cinetic is known for its strenuous and physically demanded movements in telling a story, and Alex Mills has incorporated a robotic twitch into his already complicated depiction of Richard. Director Pata Tshkarishvili has amplified his use of projection and has actually included some words in this production. A few of Richard's soliloquies are projected, and we are given an intimate glimpse into his evil and sinister plans to become king. Irina Tshkarishvili choreographed the show and also portrays Queen Elizabeth as she witnesses the bloodshed Richard employs to achieve his goals. Richard III is the most complex retelling of a familiar play that Cinetic has ever produced. The stage is filled with the technology and screens that bombard your senses, and the actions of the cast overwhelm the space and annex the aisles as they aim their laser-assisted weapons in the battle scenes. The entire creative team has maximized their efforts to create this show. Nathan Weinberger adapted the play, and Phil Charlwood served as technical director. Tennessee Dixon is the scenic and multimedia designer. He suggested the well-known a horse line with an image of a majestic stallion. The set piece that is used for the throne appears appropriately warped. The costumes by Eric Teague not only promote the cyberpunk look of the show, but must also allow for the energetic movements that are the hallmark of this acting company. Resident composer Konstantin Lortkipanadze created the play's powerful original score. Richard III plays at Cinetic Theatre through June 16th. Even audiences that are familiar with Cinetic's unique methods in presenting a Shakespearean play will find themselves astounded by their creative take on one of his most iconic villains. For first-timers, this will be an unforgettable introduction to his acclaimed artistic team. I'm Denise Pringle. Now back to the news desk.
All right, thanks Denise and her thoughts on Richard III. We appreciate it, as always. Okay, here we go as promised now, news for seniors. Well, the healthy aging experts at Mayo Clinic have put together an extensive book on how to make your later years some of your best ones. Gerontologist Gwendolyn Sutton from the Virginia Hospital Center will explore techniques explained in the Mayo book. This event's coming up on Monday, June 10 at 1:30 in the afternoon at Aurora Hills Community and Senior Center, located at 735 18th Street South. For more information and to register, give them a call at the number on your screen now and in your ear, 703-228-5722. Richard.
Palliative care is a branch of medicine that focuses on relieving symptoms of chronic progressive diseases such as diabetes, COPD, and congestive heart failure. Palliative care nurse Dave Barton will discuss the latest research that shows that when symptoms like pain and shortness of breath are relieved, people are happier and enjoy life more and tend to live longer. The program will take place on Wednesday, June 4th at 11 a.m. at the Langston Brown Community and Senior Center, located at 2121 North Culpeper Street. For information, call 703-228-6300. Craig.
All right, Richard, and also in our News for Seniors file, once again, the AARP ARP organization is sponsoring a 2-day smart driver course for seniors. This course will, when completed rather, may result in a reduced auto insurance premium, I think maybe about 10%, 15% maybe. The course will cover current rules of the road, defensive driving techniques, and how to operate a vehicle more safely in today's increasingly challenging traffic environment. The cost is $15 for ARP members and $20 for non-members. The classes will take place on Tuesday, June 4 and Wednesday, June 5 from 9 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. each day, and they'll be taking place at Walter Reed Community and Senior Center. They're located at 2909 16th Street South. For more information and registration, give them a call at the number on your screen, 703-228-0556. Richard.
Arlington County Public Libraries are partnering with senior centers for a summer reading challenge. Librarians will be visiting centers for the next few weeks to register readers for the challenge, renew library cards, and recommend favorite books. For information about when they will be at a center near you, call 703-228-4721. And thanks to Judy Masabny for contributing our senior stories.
You bet. Thanks, Judy. We appreciate it. And we'll be back with sign off and bye-bye right after we hear from our Styrofoam mom, Miriam Gennari, and another edition of her Sustainable Scoop. Here's Miriam.
Hi, and welcome to another edition of the Sustainable Scoop. The DC metro area is a high-stress area, and people find it really difficult to unwind. But I've learned of a new way to unwind, and I've brought my friend Patricia Gavin from National Yoga and Bikram Yoga in Middleburg to come and talk to us about yoga. Welcome, Patricia.
Thank you for having me.
So, tell me a little bit about what's different about Bikram yoga as opposed to regular yoga.
Well, Bikram is typically done in a hot room, heated to 105 degrees with 40% humidity to stimulate the climate of Calcutta, India. And typically it's performed 26 postures, 14 on the floor and 12 standing in the beginning of class with 2 breathing exercises in a 90-minute period.
So for your intense person, you're going to put them through an intense 90 minutes. What does that do to someone?
Typically, people come in and they need to be really well hydrated when they come in because of the heat, and it takes a while for them to adjust to it with their breathing. So they have to learn to breathe and adjust their breathing from the sympathetic to the parasympathetic nervous system.
And the benefit of that?
It helps reduce cortisol in the body and basically reset the vagus nerve. which helps people with their rest and digest and healing. It speeds healing. So a lot of athletes, professional athletes, health professionals, people who are under high stress jobs will practice the yoga.
So I think it's fascinating. I went out and I saw your beautiful studio in Cortland and in Middleburg. So people from this area, Arlington, DC, they head out to Middleburg, and tell me a little bit about the experience.
On the weekends, we get a lot of people in Middleburg, especially from April to November, who are coming out either to have a meal or to go to the wineries. And the yoga is something that's being offered now as part of a Brunch and Breathe series that we're developing at the Cortland Manor, which is an estate in Aldi.
Okay.
And
so they know that there's going to be a good crowd from the DC metro area, and they go out there and perform this challenging yoga. Is this something that you see here in Northern Virginia, or that you can find if you can't go to Middleburg?
Well, yes, there are many studios here. We have Bikram Yoga Alexandria, where I started with Jim Ambrosi and Jennifer Rochelle. I did my training there, which was about 18 months before I went to teacher training in Los Angeles.
Okay.
And they have a studio at Van Dorn Metro and also at Falls Church. We have a studio at Tyson's, Reston. We have another studio in Centerville. There's in the city many. We have one at Capitol Hill, one at DuPont, Riverdale.
So there's no excuse to not do yoga, but yet I always find one. So tell me the benefits that I could receive. I guess not just physically, but spiritually, because along with Bikram, there's a lot of great advice in those postures.
Yeah, the 26 postures, the 14 are on the floor is really where the real yoga begins, but we start with the breathing exercises and the standing postures. First of all, to shift the body into a rest and digest from fight or flight, we work on the breathing. And then we shift the breathing from the sympathetic, fight or flight, to the parasympathetic, rest and digest systems. And then we go to raise the heart rate through the standing postures. Then once the body's oxygenated, we dam the blood up in different organs of the body to clean the body from the inside out.
Really?
Yeah, so the idea is we basically move calcium that's in the joints and maybe calcified back into solution in the blood.
Okay, I don't mean to be like silly here or anything, but I get a little bit of a buzz. Is that normal?
Yeah, it's also normal for people to get a little dizzy because the heat helps detoxify the body.
Okay.
It's also great for the skin because the skin is the largest organ in the body, so the pores, everything opens up in the heat. So the idea is the heat helps to speed healing and detox the body.
And I just want to say, and I mean our viewers don't know, but you and I met at Middleburg when we were showing the movie, the Styrofoam Mom.
Yep.
And I wanted you to share just real quickly about your passion for sustainability in the yoga industry, because I think that every industry could go green. So tell me about your efforts.
Yeah, after seeing the film at a health fair in Middleburg, it occurred to me that we really use a lot of plastic, single-use plastic in the yoga industry. We sell a lot of water, bottled water. So there's a move on to really go to boxed water, so we aren't putting that many extra single-use plastic bottles into the waste stream. We want to go zero waste. So that's a big challenge for the yoga industry, is to kind of shift the thinking from selling core water bottles to selling boxed water.
How many yoga studios are we talking around the country?
In the United States alone, there's 350 just Bikram studios, and they've proliferated in the last years as the yoga has gotten more popular with more people on the computer and more people driving. And so globally, we've got 1,200 Bikram studios and 13,000 instructors, and then you multiply that times the industry.
Right.
It's a $30 billion global industry, so there's quite a few plastic water bottles being generated by the people that are practicing in a hot studio.
Well, I just think it's fascinating that not only did the movie kind of open your eyes to that,
It sure
but now
did.
you're also looking at possible sources for styrofoam in yoga. And I think that's remarkable.
We use props in yoga, so the idea of using props made from styrofoam really makes sense. from
Well,
recycled styrofoam.
That's
So it makes sense.
fantastic. Well, I've got a lot more to learn, and I'm just a new beginner. So how do I get more information about upcoming classes and how to reach you?
MindBody is an app that you can download onto your iPhone, and you can look up studios by zip code, so you can see who the closest studios are. You can also go to the website Yoga National and book a class through MindBody. There's a link there. And then Cortland Farm VA, literally va.com, is where our weekend classes are being held up on the deck and poolside.
That sounds wonderful.
So-
I think I could convince my husband to go try that out.
There you go.
All right. Well, I want to thank you so much, Patricia, for coming to sit with us. Come back and see us again.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And I want to thank all of you viewers for watching this edition of the Sustainable Scoop. I'm Miriam Gennari. Back to the news desk.
Well, not recently, I hope.
And we're back. Got us chit-chatting here. Thanks, Miriam, our Styrofoam mom, for another installment of her Sustainable Scoop. All right, so we're about to wrap up and sign off and say bye-bye here. But before we do, here a reminder, as we move into June, it's time for some new, take two, some new opening and closing music, we thought. So we'll begin next week. That will begin next week. Tonight's opening music was an extract from a much older song. And so for tonight's closing, before we say goodbye, here's the song. It was originally written, and we'll say thanks to all of you out there in TV land for watching, and to our co-anchor there, Daniel, who's on assignment this week. Come back when you get a chance, and we'll try it all again. So thanks for watching us. Have a safe week. Bye-bye.
Crescent moon takes an endless ride from the land of clouds to the land of night. Crescent moon on